He pushed me, and I shot him.
Tragic story of a woman allegedly stalking her ex-boyfriend and traveling to his D.C. apartment to kill him.
On a quiet Saturday evening in November 2020, the peaceful streets of southwest Washington, D.C. was shattered by a tragedy. Neighbors, startled by the sudden violence, heard a woman's desperate cries echoing through the night.
Please wake up. Someone help me.
But it was too late for 44-year-old Terry Hickman. Terry was a devoted father of three, known for his warm smile and outgoing personality. Friends described him as focused on his family and building a better future. He owned a small but growing trucking company and had recently moved to D.C. to be closer to his daughter, who was pursuing her graduate studies at Howard University. That fateful November evening, Terry's life was cut tragically shot in his apartment. The circumstances surrounding his death would shock the community and raise disturbing questions about obsession, rejection, and the dark undercurrents that can lurk beneath seemingly successful exteriors. Police officers were dispatched to the scene after receiving emergency calls. At the time, no one could have anticipated the shocking events. The investigation would take investigators from the peaceful streets of D.C. to the renowned University of Notre Dame and eventually lead to the arrest of a surprising suspect. How did Terry Hickman, a man described by loved ones as kind and ambitious, become entangled in a web of fatal obsession? What series of events led to his untimely death at the hands of someone he had once cared for? Today, we delve into the tragic case that left a family shattered and a community in disbelief, and serves as a chilling reminder that domestic violence can touch any life, regardless of education or social standing. This is the story of Terry Hickman, a father, a businessman, and a victim of a crime that no one saw coming. At the heart of this tragedy was Terry Hickman's life, which was defined by resilience, ambition, and an unwavering commitment to his family. At 44 years old, Terry cut an impressive figure, tall, with a warm smile that seemed to light up any room he entered. His eyes, crinkled at the corners from years of laughter, hinted at a man who found joy in life's simple pleasures. A divorced father of three, Terry had recently made the bold decision to relocate to Washington, D.C. from Nashville, leaving behind the familiar comforts of his hometown. This move wasn't driven by personal ambition alone, but by a deep-seated desire to be closer to his daughter, Morocco, who was pursuing her graduate studies at the prestigious Howard University. It was a testament to Terry's character, a father willing to uproot his life to support his child's dreams.
A very nice guy, a father of a local girl who attends college in D.C. He was 44 years old.
But Terry wasn't just defined by his role as a father. He was an entrepreneur with a vision for his future and the drive to make it a reality. He owned a small but growing trucking company, proudly operating 3 semi-trucks, representing years of hard work and sacrifice. Terry wasn't content with the status quo. He had his sights set firmly on expansion, dreaming of the day his fleet would grow and his business would flourish. Those who knew Terry described him as a force of nature, outgoing, charismatic, and unfailingly kind. He had a way about him that naturally drew others into his orbit. His deep and infectious laugh could often be heard before he was seen. Friends and colleagues alike spoke of his ability to light up a room and make everyone feel valued and heard. It was this magnetic personality that had served him well in both his personal life and his business ventures. Despite the challenges life had thrown his way, a divorce, the struggles of single parenthood, the risks of entrepreneurship, Terry approached each day with admirable and contagious optimism. He was a man who believed in second chances, in the power of hard work, and in the importance of family. In February 2020, as winter slowly gave way to spring, Terry's life took an unexpected turn. On a weekend trip to South Bend, Indiana, to visit relatives, he decided to attend a local party. It was meant to be a night of relaxation, a brief respite from the pressures of work and family obligations. Little did Terry know that this ordinary social gathering would set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his untimely demise. Terry met Nijinsky Dix at this party, a 36-year-old woman whose intelligence and ambition matched his own. Nijinsky's quick wit and engaging conversation caught Terry's attention. As they chatted over drinks, finding common ground in their shared experiences and aspirations, neither could have predicted their brief acquaintance's tragic turn. In that moment, Terry saw Nijinsky as many did, a successful, educated woman with a bright future ahead of her. He couldn't have known that she would later become his girlfriend, nor could he have imagined the obsession that would ultimately lead her to become his alleged killer. As Terry left the party that night, he was likely filled with the optimism that characterized so much of his life. Perhaps he was thinking about the potential of a new relationship, or maybe his mind had already turned back to his business and his children. Regardless, he walked away from that fateful meeting with no inkling of the darkness that lay ahead, his warm smile and friendly demeanor intact, blissfully unaware that his life's trajectory had just been irrevocably altered. Terry and Nijinsky's relationship began during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the challenging circumstances, a romance quickly blossomed between them. However, there were clear differences in how they viewed the relationship from the start. Nijinsky, a highly educated woman pursuing a PhD in criminology, law, and justice at the University of Illinois Chicago, quickly became deeply invested in the relationship. She saw potential for a long-term commitment and began integrating herself into Terry's life and family. Terry, on the other hand, was more cautious. Having already been through a divorce, he wasn't looking for another exclusive relationship. Initially, he was clear about his desire to keep things casual. His priorities were his work, his children, and rebuilding his life after his divorce. He wanted to maintain his freedom to date other women if he chose. This fundamental mismatch in expectations would prove to be the seed of the tragedy to come. According to police reports, Terry made the difficult decision to end things with Nijinsky by May 2020, just 3 months after they had met.
Hickman dated Dix for 3 months. They broke up in May.
He found her becoming too attached, too demanding of his time and attention, not wanting to lead her on when he wasn't willing to give her the commitment she sought. Terry tried to end the relationship amicably. He asked Nijinsky to stop calling and texting him, hoping for a clean break, but Nijinsky didn't take the breakup well. She became increasingly desperate, refusing to accept that the relationship was over, despite Terry's apparent attempts to distance himself. When Terry blocked her number, Nijinsky only grew more determined. Her obsession escalated, and she couldn't let go of the idea that Terry was the one for her. She became fixated on winning him back, no matter what it took. In the months following their breakup, Nijinsky's behavior took a disturbing and increasingly alarming turn. Her obsession with Terry escalated to a point where it consumed her life. Weekends found her flying from Indiana to Washington, D.C., without Terry's knowledge, driven by a compulsion to keep him in her sights. She would rent a car, drive to his apartment, and silently watch him from a distance, lurking near his home like a shadow. Deeply engrossed in his work and family, Terry was initially oblivious to the extent of Nijinsky's fixation. Yet, strange things began to happen. In September 2020, he spotted a familiar figure sitting in a car near his apartment at the Southwest Duck Pond. Though he wasn't entirely sure it was Nijinsky then, the memory of that sighting would later take on a chilling significance. But Nijinsky's attempts to maintain a connection with Terry didn't stop at physical stalking. She turned her attention to his family, hoping to win them over as allies in her quest to rekindle their relationship. She aggressively inserted herself into their lives, showering them with gifts and attention, desperate to gain their favor. In a particularly bold move, Nijinsky even arranged a summer internship at Notre Dame for Terry's daughter, Morocco. She sent Morocco a Tiffany bracelet as a gift, hoping to forge a bond. However, fully aware of Nijinsky's intentions, Terry insisted that his daughter return the gift and keep her distance. Despite all her efforts, Terry remained steadfast. He made it clear that he wanted nothing more to do with Nijinsky, but her inability to accept his rejection only fueled her obsession, driving her deeper into a dark and twisted fixation that would eventually consume her every thought and lead to a tragic conclusion.
A professor from Notre Dame charged with murdering her ex-boyfriend here in D.C.
On November 14, 2020, Nijinsky's obsession reached its tragic and deadly climax. She packed a 9mm handgun, which she had purchased 2 weeks earlier from a pawn shop in Jacksonville, Florida, and flew to Washington, D.C. She checked the gun in her luggage, a chilling indication of her premeditation. After landing, she rented a car and drove to Terry's apartment. Terry likely had no idea what was coming. The exact details of what transpired in those final moments are known only to Nijinsky, but the result was brutal and tragic. Nijinsky confronted Terry in his apartment and shot him 5 times, once in the back of the head, once in the left cheek, twice in the neck, and once in the left arm. The attack was vicious, deliberate, and unrelenting. Terry, who had been trying to move on with his life, was now lying dead on the floor of his apartment. When the police arrived, she was on the phone with her mother, telling her,
He pushed me and I shot him.
But the scene spoke of something far more premeditated than a simple act of self-defense. Nijinsky, a highly intelligent woman who had meticulously planned her trip and the murder, had carried out a cold-blooded killing, driven by her obsession with a man who no longer wanted her. The investigation into Terry's murder began immediately after the police were called to the scene. At around 5:30 p.m. on November 14, 2020, neighbors in Terry's apartment complex heard gunshots and then a woman screaming,
"Please wake up. Someone help me."
When police arrived at the apartment, they found a scene of horror. Terry Hickman was lying face down, shot multiple times. Nijinsky Dix was kneeling over his body, one arm raised, the other hiding the gun in her lap. The officers immediately secured the weapon and began to piece together what had happened. They discovered Nijinsky's purse nearby, with a cell phone inside. The phone was still connected to a call, and when an officer picked it up, they heard a woman's voice. Nijinsky's mother was still on the line. According to court records, Nijinsky's mother told the police that her daughter had called her and said that Terry had pushed her, and that's why she shot him. This statement would later become a key part of Nijinsky's initial defense. As the investigation progressed, more details came to light. Neighbors reported seeing Nijinsky panicked and pacing on the fifth-floor balcony shortly after the gunshots were heard. She had a gun in one hand and a cell phone in the other, painting a picture of her mental state immediately after the shooting. As was revealed in court documents, when detectives first arrived, Nijinsky had refused to open the door. They had to get management to help them gain entry to the apartment. This resistance to police entry was later noted in the court documents.
After hearing gunshots, neighbors saw Dix panicked and pacing the fifth-floor balcony, a gun in one hand, a cell phone in the other. When police got to the apartment, she was screaming but refused to open the door. When detectives got management to help them inside, the court documents say Terry Hickman was lying face down, shot 5 times in the back of the head and neck. Dix was kneeling over his body, one arm raised, another hiding the gun in her lap.
After securing the scene, the police took Nijinsky to the hospital for a medical examination. Doctors reported that she displayed no signs of trauma, a fact that would further cast doubt on her claim of self-defense. During her police interview, Nijinsky was shown a picture of Terry. Her response was chilling. This is part of what she said.
"Please make sure he is gone. You don't do people you love like that. I'm sorry."
Which seemed to acknowledge her actions. Diving deeper during her police interrogation, Nijinsky Dix's complete statement left a haunting impression. She asked that he be gone far away from her. She wanted to make sure Terry was never near her again. She said that wasn't love, and that one doesn't treat someone you love like that. She continued to speak. The phrase,
"You don't do people you love like that,"
was particularly jarring. Was she referring to Terry's behavior toward her, or was it a moment of self-awareness, a realization that she had crossed an irreversible line? By taking Terry's life, she had done something that no one who truly loves another could ever justify. It's as if, in those moments of interrogation, Nijinsky was grappling with the gravity of her actions, the stark contrast between the love she once professed and the violence she ultimately inflicted. Nijinsky's plea, "Please make sure he is gone," could be seen as a desperate attempt to distance herself from the consequences of her actions, to erase the horror she had unleashed. Yet, the following words, "You don't do people you love like that," linger as a stark contradiction. They serve as a painful reminder that love, twisted by obsession and anger, can lead to devastating consequences that no apology can ever undo. As the investigation deepened, the police uncovered more about the history between Nijinsky and Terry. They learned about their brief 3-month relationship that had ended in May, and about Nijinsky's subsequent stalking behavior. They also discovered from relative statements.
After they broke up, he found someone new and was about to move to Chicago.
This information painted a picture of a man trying to move on with his life, only to have it brutally cut short by a woman who couldn't let go. The police also investigated Nijinsky's background. They found she was not just a graduate student, but a highly accomplished academic. She was a PhD student in criminology, law, and justice at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Moreover, she held a position at the University of Notre Dame as the director of the Talent Search Upward Bound program, which helps people from disadvantaged backgrounds. This background made the crime even more shocking. How could someone so educated, someone who worked to help others, commit such a violent act? It was a question that would puzzle investigators and the public alike. The evidence left no doubt. Nijinsky Dix was initially charged with first-degree murder, reflecting the calculated and chilling nature of her crime. Her decision to fly to D.C. armed with a gun, along with her troubling history of stalking, clearly demonstrated premeditation. However, as the legal process advanced, Nijinsky accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to second-degree murder, a charge with a significantly lighter sentence. This decision sparked controversy, particularly among Terry's family, who felt that justice was not served given the severity of the crime. In court, Nijinsky expressed remorse, apologizing to Terry's family for the immense pain she had caused. Yet, for Terry's loved ones, no words could undo the devastating loss they had suffered. While perhaps sincere, the apology did nothing to ease the heartache or bring Terry back. The sentencing hearing was a deeply emotional affair. Terry's sister, Ashley Hickman, addressed Nijinsky directly, recounting how she had aggressively tried to insert herself into their family in a desperate attempt to rekindle a relationship Terry had already ended.
This loss is so great. And for what? Over a relationship that was only a few months old? I don't think he realized the extent of your obsession,
Ashley said, her voice quivering with grief. Terry's daughter, Morocco Hickman, also spoke at the hearing, her words filled with sorrow. She recalled how she had urged her father to distance himself from Nijinsky, never imagining the tragic turn of events that would follow. The courtroom was steeped in a profound sense of loss, amplified by the haunting question of what might have been if Terry had never encountered Nijinsky. Despite the family's pleas for a harsher sentence, Nijinsky was sentenced to just 18 years in prison, a decision that only compounded the family's grief. They struggled to comprehend how someone who had so meticulously planned a murder could receive anything less than a life sentence. The pain of their loss was overwhelming, and the sense of injustice was impossible to ignore. The murder of Terry Hickman sent shockwaves through multiple communities, not just for its brutality, but for the painful truth it exposed, that the very people we trust and let into our lives can sometimes bring unimaginable harm. In Washington, D.C., where the crime took place, neighbors were left grappling with how such a violent act could be committed by someone who once claimed to care deeply about Terry. The incident served as a reminder that love and trust can sometimes mask dangerous obsessions. As one neighbor said,
It doesn't matter how fancy the apartment is. Domestic violence can affect anyone. You don't know what's happening behind someone's doors.
Nijinsky Dix's tragic actions shocked the academic communities at the University of Notre Dame and the University of Illinois Chicago, where she was respected. Colleagues and students were stunned to learn that someone so accomplished, who had dedicated her life to helping others, could commit such a heinous crime. Her case forced many to reconsider the people they allow into their lives and the potential darkness that can lurk beneath even the most trusted individuals. For Terry Hickman's family and friends, the loss was immeasurable. They had lost a beloved father, son, and friend, someone who was on the cusp of a new chapter in his life. The cruelty of his death was compounded by the fact that it was at the hands of someone who had once professed to care for him. Instead, the relationship that had promised companionship and connection brought tragedy and loss, a stark reminder of how life can take a devastating turn when trust is misplaced. This case ignited conversations about the complexities of relationships and the potential for them to change our lives, sometimes for the worse. It underscored the importance of recognizing the signs of dangerous behavior and the need to protect ourselves from those who, despite their professed affection, may harbor darker intentions. Nijinsky's actions serve as a chilling reminder that even the most seemingly normal individuals can be capable of great harm. The case of Terry Hickman is a tragic reminder of how quickly a brief relationship can turn deadly when obsession takes hold. It challenges our assumptions about who can become a perpetrator of violence and highlights the devastating impact that such crimes have on families and communities. Terry Hickman was a man with dreams and aspirations. He was a father working to build a better life for his children. His life was cut short, not because of any action on his part, but because he had the misfortune of becoming the object of a dangerous obsession. Despite her education and professional accomplishments, Nijinsky Dix allowed her obsession to override her judgment and moral compass. Her actions serve as a chilling reminder that intelligence and academic achievement are no safeguard against the destructive power of unchecked emotions and obsessive behavior. This case also raises important questions about our justice system. The plea deal that reduced the charge to second-degree murder and the 18-year sentence have been points of contention. They force us to consider how we balance justice for the victim with the complexities of each case. For the families involved, particularly Terry's children and siblings, the impact of this crime will be felt for years to come. outcome. They are left to grapple with the senseless loss of a loved one and the knowledge that his life was taken by someone he had known for only a brief time. As we reflect on this case, it's crucial to remember the importance of respecting boundaries in relationships. It's a stark reminder that no means no, and that persistence in the face of rejection is not romantic. It can be dangerous. Moreover, this case underscores the importance of recognizing the signs of stalking and taking them seriously. If you or someone you know is experiencing stalking behavior, it's crucial to seek help and involve law enforcement early. In the end, Terry Hickman and Nijinsky Dix's story is a tragedy on multiple levels. It reminds us of life's fragility, obsession's destructive power, and the far-reaching consequences of a single violent act. As we close this chapter, let us remember Terry Hickman, not for how he died, but for how he lived, as a father, a friend, and a man working towards a brighter future. Thank you for joining us today. If you or someone you know is experiencing stalking or domestic violence, please know that help is available. Reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or a local hotline. Your voice matters. Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative and supportive content. Remember, you're not alone. Together, we can create a safer and more compassionate community. Until next time, stay safe and take care of yourself and others.